morning. Good morning. My name is Rick Noda. I am the founder of T3 Body and your host for T3 Talks. Now, again, we're here in beautiful Encinitas, California, and Encinitas Family Care, where I like to say my stomping ground where it all began. I've got Dr. Sex in here, author, friend, guy that used to hang out with, drink beers. No, just kidding. You guys, it's funny. I don't think we've ever gone out and even in the beginning when we were trying to get patients.
That was how we tried to get patients.
That's how we get patients. Oh, my God.
My first form of media marketing was sitting in a bar with you at happy hour whenever we didn't have any patients coming in and waiting for people to walk into the bar and say, oh, do you have a doctor?
Yeah, and
no? Okay, let me show you where to go.
And remember, we're gonna talk a little bit, you guys, about we'll get into it in a second. But you remember that time? It was like him and I go to this bar. It was really kind of cool. It's happy hour, and I talked to the hostess. As I talked to the hostess, I asked her if she has medical benefits, and before you know it, I'm talking to the bartender, and then the bartender, I'm in with the cook staff, and then before I know it, remember, I sit down the dock. He goes, "Where did you go?" I go, "Hey, you know what?" I felt like Jason Bourne there. I go, this staff has no medical benefits. I talked to the cooks. He suffers from lower back pain, and the freaking guy in front of me is crazy, So it's like the bartender's nuts. So it was like a relationship that just started in a good social way. Now,
Exactly.
Working as long as we did, we had monumental stories. I'm going to tell you guys, that have it be from staff members coming in and out, or like that. Me, you, and the other young lady that were here. We started it from, like I said, brick and mortars. Yeah. Now, any story you can remember, Doc, or any patient that kind of in that tenure that, the people out there can kind of benefit from a little bit?
Well, I learned early on in my medical career that we're going to experience so many unique things that almost any doctor could write a book. Yeah, I got a chance to publish one, and I was lucky for that opportunity. And it really stemmed from the number of experience that I had that sort of shaped my view of medicine, shaped my view of relationships, shaped my view of even faith in the context of someone who is not a religious person at all, and how valuable that can be for the patients that I'm treating. But one of the more interesting stories that I come up with has to do with mental health care and how we deal with that in America right now, because so often people don't get access to mental health care, don't get identified as someone who needs mental health care. But there is such a problem of chronic stress, problems with depression, problems with anxiety, where people don't get a chance to get adequate treatment because either their medical insurance doesn't cover it or they don't have medical insurance at all. This is extremely common. There are no therapists that accept their insurance. There are no psychiatrists in the area that accept their insurance. And this is devastating for these patients. Now, in our office, we've had the ability to treat these patients for it because our protocol is to spend an hour with them when we first get to know them. Yep. And by learning all of these subtle underlying themes that have contributed to their medical problems, we can figure out what goes on, and we can not just target the symptoms or not target the thing that they think is going on, but we can really help them to understand it better. So I'm thinking of, I've seen lots of patients, and this is a common problem out there, where there are medical conditions that have been diagnosed as things like chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. Yep. And this is an extremely vague term, and we're learning more and more about it all the time. And we're actually learning that this has something to do, again, with inflammation, like we were talking about before. Yep. They're actually thinking about changing the name to it of this condition to chronic myalgic encephalitis, meaning that there is actually inflammation that they are detecting on a microscopic level in the brain whenever they are testing some of these patients. Now, this is not something that you might be seeing in the medical practices today. This is more in the research lab, but we are coming to a new understanding of this. But the patients that tend to get these kinds of problems have long been experiencing symptoms of depression and or anxiety or things like this. And when they start getting physical symptoms of pain in one place or another, maybe that pain is actually justified by some kind of injury. Maybe it's not. Maybe they've just got some arthritis. Maybe they've just been inactive and they're starting to get pain from that inactivity. But the thing of it is, when someone is desperate for relief, they will hone in on any answer that they are given. They want some kind of relief. They want some kind of label. They want some kind of understanding. And when we doctors don't have a great understanding, Sometimes we jump to the simplest understanding as opposed to saying, this is what I understand about you and this is what I have left to learn with you.
Yep.
And so I've seen so many fibromyalgic patients, patients that have this kind of depression and pain syndrome, and they will go to other doctors because they don't like the idea that their pain is being labeled as a mental problem.
Yep.
Even though the mind and the body are so intimately connected, how can we deny that connection?
Yep.
And so they will go to other doctors, and I've heard so many other different diagnoses that are given. One of which that's going around now is they'll talk about chronic Lyme disease.
Yep.
There was actually, and believe it or not, I'm going to confess that I've actually watched an episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills here.
You owe me an apology.
Wait a minute. I'm not talking like this.
Amber, it's not your dog, Amber.
You know what?
It's not your dog, Amber. I'm not.
My wife introduced me to this show when
love
she
it
was
too.
going to the gym, and
watch
she
it
was
too.
watching this as she was getting on the elliptical machine, and she comes back home and she tells me about a character that is going into a Lyme disease clinic. And I said, she's going into a what?
Uh-huh.
And I had to watch it. I felt dirty all over after doing it, but I watched it, and I was so upset because you have to understand that Lyme disease is something that has been studied by medicine for a long time, and there's primary, secondary, tertiary Lyme disease that can cause anything from rash to joint pains to even neurological symptoms whenever it gets there. But there is a simple treatment for this with antibiotics whenever you catch this and you diagnose it and you treat it. What is going on is that when people have been exposed to the tick that carries this parasite, and their immune system is treated, or they've been given antibiotics that have killed it in the past, whether they knew what they were being treated for or not, or whether it was just accidentally being killed by an antibiotic that they were taking from something else.
Right.
But the situation is that their immune system will continue to show antibodies to this Lyme parasite, and they will have a positive Lyme test that shows that they've been exposed to it. Some doctors will take a look at that and say, oh, you have all of these painful symptoms as well as this depression. This must be due to this Lyme disease. And patients can go looking up things on Lyme disease and become frightened by it and submit to all sorts of different kinds of treatments that there is no evidence for. And they trust us because we have these letters after our name. Even the letters don't do it. You should have some doctor show you evidence, or you should have someone explain to you why this is different than what the CDC is saying. The CDC will tell you that there is no such thing as chronic Lyme disease. When I saw this TV show and when I was talking to my patients about this, I actually called members of the CDC to ask them about this chronic Lyme situation, and he absolutely acknowledged that this was not true and that we needed to try and do something about this. So my action was to email the producer, email the characters of this Real Housewives show, and say, you've got to take this off of there. I will see her for free. I don't need her to undergo treatment or anything like this. I want to get her encouraged, but you cannot put this Lyme disease clinic out there for everybody to see, because they're going to hone in on that and say, that's going to be my answer too. It is normal human psychology to want an answer. It is normal human psychology to want to feel better, to feel like there is something that is going to be better for you.
Exactly.
And this is what that has done for patients. Gives them false hope and makes them undergo things that can cost them lots of money, give them lots of problems. If you go back and look at the character that was in there, I think that she has suffered a lot since then. She's gone through divorce. She continues to have painful problems like this. And I haven't seen those episodes, by the way.
No,
But
no, not at all. She's losing her money on her house.
But this is something that I have seen a lot of.
Yep.
And, so seeing that kind of a problem, by talking to patients and helping them understand that they are not making this up, we are not insulting them by saying that their mind is contributing to this problem, and showing them that all of our minds play tricks on us on a regular basis. And when we feel like we can now understand ourselves, we will jump to the most simple conclusion that we can get. And when a doctor hands that to us on a plate and says, oh, by the way, you're going to have to take these 20 antibiotics and you're going to have to pay me this much, sometimes we're even willing to do those things.
And I'll tell you, Doc, with that passion and you and us working side by side for so long, that's why I created my 501c, because I suffer from mental illness. He'll tell you right off the bat that the guy that's sitting here right now is a lot calmer. I'm not as angry as I used to be. You know, again, a big part of that was, again, going through my own mental illnesses and stuff like that.
I
And
thought
my
it was that
alcoholism.
left hook that I gave you.
That was a little putazo que me cagó, okay, you know, but that was it. So yeah, that left hook. After you gave me that left hook, I'm gonna tell you, it knocked me straight. But no, the nice thing is exactly that. I saw that same episode with the Beverly Housewives, and what she was going through was a lot of other things that were going on. Now, when people used to tell me that I needed counseling, I would tell them they're crazy. I'm okay. But you guys know that what helped with my mental illness, what helped with my ADHD, what helped me reduce that was a great diet. I reduced all the things that cause it. Then the other thing is when I sat down with someone, you guys know in my previous podcast, Tiffany, she basically told me a lot of the pain I was having in my back, a lot of the pain that I was having around, and it just went to me. She goes, it's because of insecure. You're insecure. And I'm like, what, me? I'm a jarhead. I'm not insecure. I'm this and this and this and this and this. But she was actually right. I was hiding the healing. I was hiding the ability to be vulnerable through alcohol and opiates. And the minute I let that alcohol and opiates go, then I actually started telling people that, you know what? Yeah, that effing bothers me, or this happens this. Because as a Marine, my duty, my mission was to shut the hell up and just do your job. And Doc will tell you here, in probably 8 years of coming in, I think I had one bad day, you know, and that was it. Because that, you put that in and you shove that down and they say kick the dog, beat your wife, but be a pro when you walk through that door. And that has a lot to do with pain that was in my arm. I mean, I was at a point where people thought I had MS and Parkinson's, but it had nothing to do with that. It was like you said, my mind playing tricks on me, you know. And the thing is, have it be for Dr. Sexton, Peter Agoscu, Stephen Moxie, Tiffany Barsoda, you've got to have that ecosystem to help you with that mental illness. And when I mean that mental illness is we all suffer from a little bit of what I'd say, I don't feel good enough, or I don't measure up. And if that starts to build, guess what? You start to feel like SHIT, and it can manifest. Greed is what we see on the Beverly Hills Housewife. They sell more. People watch that show more because they use fear, kind of like our government. Did I say that? Oh, I'm sorry. That was me being a jarhead again. But that's what I look at practitioners like yourself and you guys, when you're looking at this podcast and you're sharing that stupid ass dog video of some dog humping each other, all right, and it gets 10,000 views and he's on Jimmy Kimmel. How did you do that? You don't see these videos. And that's where it bugs me. Because you guys forward these videos, subscribe to these channels, because these are things that doctors and nurses are typically not telling you, but we have the courage to do it. So when I say our motivation inspires you to be better, find two good-looking guys like us and go to see your doctor. There it goes. T3 Body, you guys, is a company and a fitness company that really talks about the complete athlete. When I talk about our motivation inspires you to be better, all right, as a non-for-profit that supports military veterans that suffer from mental health issues, I really enjoy the support you guys are giving me here on YouTube. But again, I am seeking clients on my T3 Body. So if you go ahead and take a look at my website, understand that the intimacy of getting to know you starts with just 30 minutes motivation. So you go on there, you sign up for one of those, you get a one-on-one remote talk with me just like this. Then I encourage you to go and look at one of my training plans, download a 4 to 8 week training plan, and really kind of just test your body, test yourself, and just really start to get yourself ready to then do the next thing, is where you get 4 or 5 of your friends together and dare yourself to be better, where there you have a little bit more of my information along with my training plan. You get some remote sessions with me regardless of where you're at. You notice if you're watching me on YouTube right now, you can hear my voice and I can train you, all right? And that 45-day dare is a great way to just see and challenge yourself to really do the final thing, is become a member. Being a member with me is a commitment, and it's made for just an elite amount of people. So when I talk about membership here, I really talk about a really elite group of individuals who really understand our core values of God, country, family, and really live by and have really adopted where our motivation inspires them to be better. So I wanted to touch on that, you guys, and really use that so that individuals like yourself who are getting better and inspiring others that understand that, you know what, we do need your support to keep everything going.